Greetings, fellow warheads. It's Alex from Metal Master Kingdom. We're at the Mod Club today for the North America Under Attack Tour featuring Destruction, Jungle Rot, Warbringer, and Demons Within. And I'm joined by John Kevill from Warbringer. What's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. About getting close to halfway done with this tour. It's a rather short run, only 3 weeks, so pretty easy for us. And we just crossed into Canada, and we're ready to pretty much blow the place up.
Awesome. So once again, you just answered my first question. How's the tour going? So,
well, yeah.
Just like that, right?
Well, yeah. Harpo's Detroit's a little funny. That show was funny because it's an enormous venue, like in the weirdest ghetto in Detroit. But the stage looks awesome. Sounds great.
But I heard that the stage is high, isn't it?
Very, like 12 feet up. Yeah. So it's like an old 70s place, and this tour's not nearly big enough to be there. But we were.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. The rest of the shows were all bona fide ragers, though.
Yeah, my cousin who used to live in Windsor, usually sometimes would go to Detroit to sometimes see shows. It was just right across the border.
Yeah.
And he told me about Harpo's and everything, how the stage is so high.
Yeah, stage is enormous. It's like pitch black in 90% of the venue. It's, in the backstage is like the ceilings are peeling down and like these musty, moldy rooms. Detroit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so.
But the people who were there actually, everyone enjoyed it, and we had a good set regardless. I was really happy with how we played, and we kind of used the opportunity to throw in a few songs we haven't been playing as much recently and make sure we're still tight on them. We did Shattered Glass, Towers of the Serpent. Warbringer is sitting on, I believe, like 49 songs now or something is the total. So that is we can fit like 8 or 9 in a 45-minute set. So it's completely impossible, and it's kind of especially we've been focusing on the new record a lot. We're playing the whole 1 through 5 of that record in order. So, which I like to do, and on the next tour I'm going to be doing the whole damn thing. So we'll probably be doing a whole new record, Combat Shock, end of show, something like that. You know,
because like Maiden did that with when A Matter of Life and Death came out, and they got a lot of flack for that, especially over in the UK.
Yeah, but A Matter of Life and Death is no woe to the Vanquish. We made the fastest, most ruthless record we ever made. A lot of the time when bands are like, "We're playing our whole new record," it's like, well, we're going to play the whole new record where we either do something less energetic than like than the reason you listen to us, or we're going to do the one where we desperately try to recapture how we sounded on our great old record. Yeah. Unlike these bands, we are a new band, and we are not trying to recapture our prime, we're hitting it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Of course. And like I said, Woke to the Vanquished, it's amazing. It's a beast of an album. I love it. And it already made the top 5 spot on my top 10 albums of this year already.
Yeah.
So, it's your first in 4 years, mainly due to the lineup changes that you guys faced over the years. But for this record, you have Carlos Cruz back on drums, Adam, who has also rejoined, and also you have...
Adam was only out of the band for about a year. It was due to a family crisis, actually. Yeah. So even though he didn't play on Empire's Collapse, he actually did all the live shows for it. Yeah. So Adam Carroll, he often... people often will miscredit me for being the sole original member, and I want to clear that up, that Adam Carroll's been there as long as I have.
Of course. And then you also, the last time we spoke, Jesse Sanchez was already playing with you. He was filling in at the time, but now he's officially in it, and now you also have Chase Becker on guitar.
Yep, who was on there on that last tour. He joined right after that Enforcer tour.
So how did Chase come into the picture?
We've known Chase for forever. He played in LA metal band Desecrate, which was a little more of like a Megadeth meets Lamb of God, somewhere in there. And Chase was always more towards like the shredding Megadeth side, but his bandmates had another view. But we always knew him as just a killer guitar player, and we kind of, when his band split, and he had been doing it for like 10 years with like some local success and stuff, we were like, hey man, we know you're one of the best guitar players in LA, and we personally thought he never really had a chance to shine to his full capabilities. And I think this record is where he really shows everyone what he's capable of. That dude is one of the best lead guitar players around today, and I think after a good year of touring or so, people are going to start to recognize it, because he's just he's got the he has the shred chops, but he also has that melodic tastefulness to make solos that are actually enjoyable while also being, holy shit, how can I play this?
And it's absolute proof on the record, because just hearing the solos that he did, it's amazing.
And I really like the dynamic between him and Adam, because Adam and
Yeah, I
John
was gonna
Mox,
say,
our ex-guitar player, they're both more in the self-taught school of guitar playing, whereas Chase Becker is really like schooled and studied. And so between Adam and Chase, it's cool. It's a cool dynamic because Adam has like his own cool sense of melody and tends to play a little more like slower melodic solos, and then Chase brings in like the sweeps and runs and stuff. So the trade-offs between them are just electric, and I love it.
It sounds awesome for sure. And one of the best songs on the record is When the Guns Fell Silent. And I stated in my review of the album, I stated as your Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Tell me how this song came about.
That's not really a bad comparison at all. That's certainly one of the songs I had in mind. I was thinking of pretty much heavy metal does long epic songs at times because heavy metal's not trying to make everything radio friendly. Normally we make our thrash songs kind of short because we're against unnecessary repetition. One thing that I think when we look at and critique original thrash metal based on like what we want to hear, one thing we notice is there's often after the solo and middle break, you go back to your intro riff verse chorus.
Yeah.
And for us, who are, we're all musicians, we get music pretty fast, that comes off boring a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so Warbringer almost never does that.
Yeah.
And so we tend to have like these 3-4 minute thrash songs that go like, go through like the early movements of a song and then throw a complete left turn at the end. Descending Blade's a really good example of this structure.
That's great.
Combat Shock's another. We've been doing this structure is like our sort of go-to.
Yep.
And the structure, since I don't play an instrument, is what I really occupy my mind on in my role of writing the songs. We wanted to do something totally different though, have a giant epic song. We'd never really tried this before. So what we had in mind was somewhere between, one of the Iron Maiden epics, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Hallowed Be Thy Name, so on and so forth, and Justice for all the big songs, title track, To Live Is To Die, specifically, one of my favorites.
Of course.
And then, as well as some black metal, but also by way of epic songs, and in this case, Blood, Fire, Death, the song specifically. Which is kind of the beat that the first half of Guns rolls on. So we're trying to sort of blend all these together, and I guess it's not technically like a thrash metal song, but Thing That Should Not Be is more like a group metal number, and that's on Master of Puppets. No one ever says that's not a thrash album. So thrash is not this creative straitjacket either, and everyone accuses not just us, but our whole generation of metal and thrash metal of being creatively bankrupt, and I don't think that's true at all, because I notice a huge difference when I compare Havoc to Warbringer to Evil to Municipal Waste to Vector. These are all bands that you can tell apart from each other in half a second. So how could they be generic if they're so instantly identifiable? Isn't that the opposite?
Yeah.
And even Warbringer album to album is very different, I think. It's more a refinement and evolution, I think, than a total change. But the thing that's changed since the first record is we've added a lot more extreme metal influence, and I think we've gotten more serious and dark as well.
Yeah.
So this was kind of and this song was really supposed to cap off the record and to kind of be sort of what we've been trying to do the whole career and say, like, if you're calling us some Slayer Jr. retro thrash thing, listen to the song, you're objectively wrong, no.
Yeah.
This is, and I'm really pleased with how it came out, and I've been studying history a lot. Specifically, the song's about the ending of the First World War, which, if you don't know how it went down as a human living in Western civilization today, I think you should. Because, you're going to compare your politicians to Hitler without even knowing how Hitler got there. So it's a rather important thing in modern history.
Yep.
And it's so powerful and frightening to me how the First World War, this horrible catastrophe, 4 years of futile bloodshed, where the bravery of the individual soldiers is contrasted with the callous slaughter going on the battlefield, where these human virtues of bravery, honor, self-sacrifice, where they're not only meaningless and futile, but where they're actively abused, in my view. And I think that there's so much just evil, moral stuff that comes from this, and it's just a really powerful story. So I wanted to I don't want to tell you the story with the dates and places. That's not what a song should do, in my view. I'm not into like the way Sabaton writes historical lyrics, even though I love a lot of the subjects they write about. I don't necessarily like the way they go about it. I want to make it so it's more an emotional thing, more where you hear the song and it just paints that picture for you, to where you can feel yourself just like huddling in a wet trench, just being like, God, let this end, you know, which is how the men of that time felt. And when it finally does end, there's this sort of like creepy, you know, just like the song ends, this sort of soft but nervous kind of like what will follow this. Because just like the last lines in the song, the world of kings and empires and nobility and aristocracy, classical art and classical music and the whole old world was destroyed there. And it left the modern world that happens now. And when I get to be a history professor eventually, I think about this time period, I want to say that I think in the First World War, a line in the cheapening of human life was crossed that cannot then be uncrossed, and that without that, you know, essentially to sum up my thesis in one line, I'm going to say the second Holocaust went to the cities and the camps, but the first took place on the front lines in the Western Front, where you have a generation getting, you know, getting mowed down. And it's scary to think that like nationalism is the thing that allows this. And to tie it into the present, for those of you who are scratching your head about this, we have in America, in England, in most parts of Europe, these new like right-wing nationalist uprisings going on. You know, the current president got elected on a wave of populist nationalism, and to me, who's looking into this period where nationalism goes and dooms a generation, and then the following generation gets it even worse, it makes me go like that, because as if these lessons weren't there to be learned, as if, as if we can't know any better now. And so that's why a song like, and this all ties together on the record, at least in my head, hopefully listeners get a sense of this, but there's songs like Shellfire and Guns, which go into the past, and Woe to the Vanquished are all past tense songs, but then Silhouettes is future tense. The Silhouettes is like, if we make these mistakes again, that back then resulted in Shellfire, Guns, Fell Silence, awful trench warfare, slaughter, today it wouldn't even be a years-long war, it would be a seconds-long war, and with all the, it would be 100 World War IIs condensed into a couple hours. And the end of everything. So it's why, honestly, metal is the only genre that can express this properly, because if you are looking at this and you're not furiously angry about it, I don't understand it.
Well said, well said. It's absolutely true.
No one walks the earth, but the shadows echoes. I see them staring back. It was the dawn of man. Now only a silhouette of fear.
And you also mentioned that you're a big history guy. You also mentioned that you're wanting to try to be a history professor in your private life.
Yes. I need some other career besides just this, because after Empires it left me with like no backup, and I really don't want to be that. I consider myself a relatively intelligent person, and I don't want to have to be doing menial stuff, because after getting off stages and doing stuff that makes you really happy, it's extremely depressing and tough to go back to like something that you hate, especially because no job really takes, I toured the world for 10 years to mean anything. I'm starting back at like entry level for shit jobs when I go back, and it's really depressing, because I'm like, I know how to do, I type 90 words a minute and all this shit. I'm actually qualified for a number of things, but I can't prove it to anyone. Pain in the ass.
Like Thomas from At the Gates, he's also a teacher in his downtime.
I heard Lord Worm is too, Cryptops. I heard he's an English teacher. I do some like private English tutoring already, but I'm working on my bachelor's degree for history, and I want to specifically teach European history, French Revolution through Second World War.
You want to teach like college, university, high school?
College level, yeah. Probably community college, because if I'm going for an upper level university, I have to go all the way to my PhD to do that, and I probably don't have the time right now. I probably need to like start working on that first. Because music, since the internet, it has a hard time paying the bills, and that's not why I do it. Life's not for money, money's for life. It's the other way around. Our modern culture is wrong. Remember that.
So now switching it up a little bit. Just a couple weeks ago, we were all hit like with the big shock when we found out Chris Cornell passed away. Completely unexpected, and just a whole shock to the music world. What are your thoughts? Like, were you ever a big Soundgarden or Chris Cornell
I am
fan?
a big Soundgarden fan. I consider him, I'm not as much into his. I pretty much know like the Soundgarden material. I don't know a lot about Audioslave or anything he's done since. But yeah, he's a damn good singer on that stuff. I'm into. I like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden a lot out of those era, and I choose them miles ahead of the other two different Pearl Jam. They're both a little metal-y. Something like Rusty Cage, that's kind of a speed metal riff,
Johnny Cash covered it.
Oh, damn, I never knew that.
He covered Rusty Cage.
It's a great song.
Yeah. And and what's great about his vocals is he transcends genres. Like his voice is like great for any genre if you can think about it.
Yeah, he's an excellent singer. Now, I have two things to say about this, and I'll kind of play devil's advocate with myself. Because here, on the one hand, any man or woman dying is a tragedy, and that's the real innate tragedy of life is our own mortality. It's even weirder when you got a guy like Chris Cornell who's beloved by so many, us included, and who is wealthy, is famous, all the things that are supposed to make one happy. It's kind of proof that the things that our culture says will make you happy don't. Just living, here's a guy who, he checked the list, he's got all of it, kills himself. And you have homeless people that don't do that. Doesn't make sense in that regard. I mean, though he was using heroin, which could make it. But at any rate, on the other hand, I really am against, this celebrity worship culture. Even though Chris Cornell was on these great records, great singer, great vocalist, just another guy. His life does not have any more innate value than like the dude who's standing on the corner over there right now. And no one would ever talk about him, So on the other hand, this idea that a celebrity died, which they inevitably will. That's what happens to people, that we, the entire world's in shock and so surprised. Really? You don't expect humans to die? That's literally, what, is the sun not going to rise tomorrow either? Humans are going to die, and it's always sad, and it's equally sad whether they're famous or not. And the thing is with, when people try to act so personal, as if this was their best friend that died, it's this is a guy that you either never met or you probably had a 2-second exchange with, and the real thing, the connection that you share with them, is the records and the music. And you know what? Those didn't die. Those are still there.
Exactly.
So I see these celebrity things because every time someone famous dies, it's the same things that everyone says. And I have these thoughts every time about it. Actually, I touch on this on the record. In the end of Divinity of Flesh, I'm talking about how the idea of Divinity of Flesh is the divine property of flesh, is that though our mortal bodies die very quickly, when you look at time outside of your own life, our ideas can live past ourselves, and that's how we humans are divine creatures in a sense. And then on the record, the "My Words Will Live On" bit at the end of that song, that's me going after I'm dead, this is going to be here. So, that's, so in that regard, we can't feel too sorry for a dead celebrity because they have, to some extent, achieved the dream that, was once had by the great heroes such as Achilles and all that, immortality through their works and deeds. So there's, as with all things in humanity, there's this crazy duality to it, where on one hand, horrible tragedy, guy's dead, was an inspiration. On the other hand, not really tragic at all, bound to happen, death is inevitable, and shit, the guy had a really good run. So I feel like both of those simultaneously. Because humans are paradoxical and nonsensical creatures, and that's what I've really come to understand about people and myself is we are, paradox, this idea of opposite things, is so core to what people are. Opposite things that seem to be mutually exclusive, existing within the same soul.
Again, well said. I really, those are some great words.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll just do a quick lightning round. So really fast, light fire questions. So, what's the last movie you saw in the theaters?
I'm gonna count on The Airplane because I don't really go to theaters too much. shit, what was it? I watched Hacksaw Ridge. I don't think that was the last one, but I dug it. That's a really cool story, and I was somewhat familiar with it. But I thought that was a really neat story, and especially where they got the sergeant who was trying to get the main character out of the service because he wouldn't fire a weapon, and then the actual man, not the actor who played him, but the actual man who was that sergeant shows up at the end of the movie, and he's like, man, I just learned a lesson never to judge someone like that again, and you know, after seeing the events of the whole movie, it's like, damn, that's some powerful shit. So I really loved that one. That was really good. Oh, and I saw Star Wars Rogue One on that same plane, and it wasn't as good as everyone said.
What's that?
It was not as good as everyone said it was.
Really?
I hate CGI, man. I just fucking hate it.
Yeah.
End of story. I fucking hate it. Go back to making like a real Millennium Falcon and in a model. It look, you know, it's so weird about Star Wars is the 70s and 80s ones look better than the modern ones because even though they had to build like a little model and film it or whatever, and all the ships look more rusty and bolty, it's they had to actually make them, and you're watching a physical object, and your brain, no matter how good CGI gets, your brain knows and it differentiates.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I hate that about modern movies. Hate it, and that's why all my favorite movies, at least in the action genre, are all like
CGI.
No, are mostly like late 80s. That era between like the mid-late 80s and the early 90s, where physical special effects kind of reached their peak. This was not Lightning Rod, but there you go. That's what I think about action movies of today.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Okay, so coffee or tea?
Tea, I'm a singer.
Okay. What's your dream vacation?
I've got a few, but I'll say that I've always wanted to go to Russia and see like St. Petersburg and Moscow and all the old Soviet stuff and the with the czars and all of that. It's a part of the world I've never seen, and there's not too many of those left. And I've always been kind of fascinated with Russian history. If Russia's like a boxer, they're the guy that wins the match like Rocky Balboa style by getting punched in the face so much that the other guy runs out of breath. And like they're, you know,
So
Russia is interesting to me. It's very interesting. It's because of my historical studies self, and it's just also because I've been a lot of other places.
Okay. Your favorite beer?
I like a lot of IPAs, so I don't have like a single favorite, but there's I guess I'll say Sculpin Grapefruit IPA, because hoppy beers have that kind of like soapy but refreshing taste, and grapefruit has that too, and I fucking love grapefruit and I love hoppy beers, so the two go, it's really well together because it's bitter and refreshing at the same time, but not sweet at all. So I like that.
Cool. Okay, so and the last question to wrap things up. So you're finishing this tour in about a week and a half?
Yeah.
June 11th, I believe?
We're halfway through then.
And then, and later this year you're coming back with Dark Tranquility.
Yeah.
Right? So after that, what's next as far as touring goes?
I don't know yet. I think we have a few dates in Mexico and then kind of question mark. At that point, I have 2 tours between now and then already.
Right.
Probably about another 70 or 80 shows. But I think we may do something abroad for a couple weeks, East Asia or Australia, something like that. If a killer offer falls into our laps, we might do USA or Europe again. But pretty much I want to tour as much as we can, play as many gigs as we can up until the end of this year, to where I'm going to resume studies for like that semester, and then probably tour again for the summer. And that should more or less wrap up the Woe to the Vanquish cycle, after which point we'll start work on the next one.
Awesome. So look out for Warbringer out there, friends. So John, thanks so much. Always great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Any closing words to the fans?
Well, just check out the new record, Woe to the Vanquished. I'd like to say heavy metal is not some nostalgia trip, remember when bullshit. Heavy metal is a genre that needs to exist today because there's nothing else that can make you feel the same way or say the things that need to be said that metal can, about dissatisfaction with the things that are wrong in the world. And so and to not just say it, but to express it with sound and word together. And that's Warbringer's aim, to make kind of the metal that we think should be made, and to bring it not just to the standard it was in the 80s, but to that next step where, in my opinion, it never quite got. So that's our quest, and it's up to you guys, the listeners, to see how successful we are. I can promise you this, though, if you see us live, we're going to blow your head off. So there's that. Take care, keep it heavy.
and they certainly do blow your head off. Trust me on that. I've seen them, and they fucking rule. So, catch Warbringer on this tour with Destruction, Jungle Rot, and Demons Within, running through June 11th, and catch Warbringer on tour with Dark Tranquility later this year, and wherever they go next, catch them on tour and pick up the new record, Woe to the Vanquished, out now on Napalm Records. I'm Alex, you're watching MetalMasterKingdom.com. Cheers.
Cheers.